Please note that no AI, colorization or digital enhancement has been applied to my personal archive of original postcards, photographs, slides and negatives featured on this YouTube channel. This excellent view of Pedmore Road at the Lie is taken from a real photograph postcard franked in 1911. The photographer was stood close to the Salem Chapel, seen here to the right on the western side of the road. To try and provide reference points for those too young to remember this view of Pedmore Road, here is a view from July 2026. Much has gone from the landscape, but some old buildings remain. For example, the row of houses beyond the petrol station have survived, though for some reason the bay windows have all gone, along with the lovely brick and stone pillars that form part of the walls along the building line with the pavement. The road does not appear on a map published in 1901, but the houses are marked on a map of 1914, suggesting that they were constructed during the Edwardian period. It is conjecture on my part, but perhaps the reason for the loss of bay windows along this row is that the buildings shifted slightly when settling after construction. They were, after all, built on land where shafts for a fireclay works once stood. At the time of this image, these dwellings all bore a name rather than a number. Some of these are still displayed on some of the houses. For example, here at number 99, the name of Beechcroft has endured. In 1911, this was the household of the grocery store manager Arthur Turner and his family. The neighbouring house was, and still is, named Lyndon Lee. At the end of the Edwardian period, this was the home of the Glover family. Richard Glover spent a lot of time on the road as he was a commercial traveller in the stationery trade. The fireclay works, along with the Green Lane pits, are clearly indicated on this extract from a Victorian map published in 1882. I have marked the location with a red circle where, almost 30 years later, the photographer would have stood. The map shows an older Wesleyan Reformed chapel set back from the main road, a site that would later be occupied by the Sunday School of the Salem Chapel. This place of worship closed some years ago, and the building now serves as retail premises, latterly as Georgina Scott Bridal. The Salem Chapel of the Wesley Reformers was just one of many nonconformist churches in the Lie. There were also chapels for the Methodist New Connection, Mount Zion Congregationalists, Unitarians, Wesleyans and Primitive Methodists. The Victorian town had seemingly found God in a big way. At one time, church leaders in neighbouring towns would not dare venture into the Lie for fear of heathens. The Lie Wasters, as they were known, were widely regarded as a lawless and godless lot. In 1800, Birmingham ministers described the Lie populace as proverbial in their ignorance and vice, and there is no more rude or uncultivated spot in the whole of the British Isles. A key player of the Salem Chapel, Henry Homer, a resident of Crosswalks, went on the road with his Bible during 1916, well, as far as Caledonia, across the boundary with the wider area of Amblecote. There are 6 memorial stones within the ground floor frontage, and despite being made with sandstone rather than terracotta, most are still readable. They all bear the date of April 1893. The laying of these stones was reported in the County Advertiser and Herald for Staffordshire and Worcestershire on Saturday the 8th of April 1893. The event took place on the previous Monday, during which one stone was laid by Esther Fletcher of Woolscott Hall. She was a daughter of Joseph King, the wealthy brick, tiles and terracotta manufacturer of Wassell Grove. I wonder if the family supplied the bricks and terracotta for this chapel. They certainly did for other churches in the Black Country area. In 1861, Esther King married Isaac Fletcher, a Quaker land and coal mine owner, and went to live at Cockermouth in Cumberland. Her husband became the Liberal MP for the town. In London he often stayed at Morley's Hotel in Trafalgar Square. It was there that in April 1879 he shot himself in the head in a hotel room. Esther later moved into Woolscott Hall, which had become the residence of the King family. Another stone was laid by Miss E. Price of West Bromwich, though I am not sure of her connection with his chapel. The stone to the right was laid by William Beddoes Moore of Wednesbury. Born in Halesowen, the coach builder had earlier lived quite nearby at Old Swinford. Indeed, he would return to the area where he continued his business as coach builder. Another of the memorial stones was laid by John William Stiff, a grocer from Colligate at Cradley, who later traded as a yeast merchant in Quarrybanks High Street. In 1916, his son stole the takings left in a cash box on the premises. John Stiff demonstrated he was a strict person, for when his offspring was found guilty of the offence, he agreed that he should be given 6 strokes of the birch rod, the punishment being dished out by Police Constable Harris. Prior to the stone laying, there was a procession to the site of the new chapel headed by the banner and band of the Quarrybank Blue Ribbon Army, and a service was conducted by Mr. H. Newman, Reverend J. G. Firth and the Reverend J. Shepherd. The collection sum of £43, 4 shillings and 4 pence was laid on the stones. In the evening, a tea meeting was held in the Congregational Schoolroom, where speeches were delivered, interspersed with musical pieces. The Reverend T. Whitehouse of Amblecote, Circuit Minister, made all the arrangements. A few doors up from the Salem Chapel, a sign can be seen informing folks that it was a telephone call office. With almost everyone wandering around with a phone in their pocket, the younger generation will find it hard to believe that up until the 1970s, the majority of households did not have a telephone and would rely on call boxes, those redundant red kiosks that have found new life as voluntary libraries or the like. But back in the period when this photograph was taken, people would nip along to an office such as this. The telephone operator in 1911 was Emily Lavender, sister-in-law of the postman Isaiah Woodhouse. Her sister Emily also lived here. She was a teacher at Orchard Lane School. A little further along Pedmore Road, on the left-hand side of the road in this image, the large building in the middle distance eventually made way for the Christadelphian Hall, erected in 1932. The latter still stands on the corner of Morvale Street. To the left of the photograph in the foreground, numbers 102 to 104 Pedmore Road are visible, all gone now. In this post-war map extract, a Gilt jewellery factory can be seen to the rear of these houses. In 2026, the site of this factory was occupied by the modern structure of CC Contracting Limited, specialists in steel frame buildings for the industrial and commercial sector. The Gilt jewellery firm operating the old factory was an outpost of Bloxidge Bros Limited, a firm based at the Regal Works on Holiday Road at Handsworth. The firm was established by the brothers William and Walter Bloxidge. The latter began his career in a silversmith's factory when he was 13 years old. During the First World War, he was foreman in a munitions factory at St Helens. After the war, he established the firm with his brother, firstly at Hockley Hill and later at a works in Icknield Street, before the business was moved to the Regal Works. The factory in the lie produced castings for the jewellery finished at Handsworth. Adopting the Hollywood brand, the firm were highly successful in mass-produced costume jewellery that was aimed at the affordable end of the jewellery market. Have a rummage in your nan's jewellery box and you may find such a piece. Much of the firm's output was retailed in branches of Woolworths. Today pieces can be found online at modest prices, making them a popular collector's brand. The next building along the road was the Seven Stars Inn. Today the site of this tavern would be at the edge of the canopy to the petrol station that has traded here for a few decades. The taller building adjacent was once the brewery of Herbert Newman and Sons Limited. The shop of the petrol station stands on the site of the brewery. The Seven Stars Inn was owned by Newnams and possibly known as the Brewery Tap. In the Edwardian period, the business acquired the Bird in Hand near the Red House Cone at Wordsley. The Newnam connection with beer probably commenced with the wheelwright George Newnam, who along with his wife Isabella kept the hare and hounds at nearby Careless Green. The business seemed to focus on the bottled beer trade, and though modest in scale, enjoyed success in the first half of the 20th century. The firm was acquired by Wolverhampton and Dudley Brewers Limited in 1960, who, only interested in the public houses, closed the brewery on Pedmore Road. Herbert Newnam and Sons Limited employed George Hollington, who commuted to life from his home on South Road in Stourbridge. He died at the age of 28 when serving in the Princess Charlotte of Wales Royal Berkshire Regiment. In August 1917, it was reported that he died at a clearing station of wounds received in action. Buried at Brandhurst New Military Cemetery at Vlamertinghe near Ypres, he left a wife and young son. It was during World War I that the Seven Stars Inn was tenanted by George and Edith Dutfield, a couple who had previously run the Hollybush Inn on Cemetery Road. There are two young girls stood outside the front gate of the house adjoining the Seven Stars Inn. One of them is possibly Agnes White, daughter of Major White, a spade and fork warehouseman who occupied the house with his wife, also named Agnes. At the Seven Stars during this period, Samuel Herbert Newman was recorded as brewer, maltster and innkeeper. Thanks for viewing and listening to my blurb. If you enjoyed the video, please give a thumbs up. Post your comments below if you have more info or a question. If you think these video clips rock, you can also subscribe to the channel.